The cup tips. Not fast. Not slow. Just enough time for everyone in the room to see it happen and do nothing. Porcelain clips the edge of the white sofa. A soft, almost polite sound. Then gravity takes over. Thick brown sauce spills out, spreading across the imported fabric like a bruise blooming under skin. The baby blinks. Across the room, the man in the burgundy suit freezes mid-step. This is not a house where accidents happen. Crystal chandeliers hang perfectly still above marble floors polished until they reflect fear back at you. Armed men line the walls, their eyes trained on everything except the small girl now sitting on his sofa, legs splayed, hands messy, gaze wide and curious. Behind the couch, the cleaner gasps. Her hand flies to her mouth too late, like she might still catch the sound before it escapes. Her eyes lock on the stain, then on the man, then back on the baby. Oh my God, sir, One finger lifts. The room goes silent. Not quiet. Silent. Even the air seems to stop moving. If you're listening right now and thinking this is where he explodes, don't look away, because what happens next is worse. The man doesn't shout. He doesn't curse. He doesn't look at the cleaner at all. He looks at the baby. She sits in a pink dress that doesn't belong in a room like this, curls tied into tiny bows, her fists soaked in sauce and crumbs. She stares back at him like he's a puzzle she hasn't decided to solve yet. The stain spreads. A guard swallows hard. Another shifts his weight and stops himself. Everyone here knows the rules. The sofa alone cost more than a year of their lives. The cleaner's knees shake. I'm so sorry, she whispers, the words tumbling over each other. My sitter cancelled last minute. I thought I could finish the West Wing before she woke up. I didn't think. The baby slaps the cushion. Sauce splatters. A sound escapes the cleaner's throat. Half sob. Half prayer. The man takes a step forward. Leather shoes on marble. One measured step. Then another. He smells faintly of cologne and something sharper beneath it, metal, smoke, a scent that doesn't belong in luxury. The tattoos at his collar disappear under his suit as he bends slightly, studying the child like she's something rare and dangerous. How old? He asks. His voice is calm. Too calm. The cleaner blinks. And 9 months, sir. 9 months. The man's jaw tightens for half a second, so brief you'd miss it if you weren't watching for cracks. He crouches. The cleaner's breath catches. She doesn't like strangers, she says quickly, desperate now. She cries. She screams. The baby leans forward. Sticky fingers brush the sleeve of his suit. It's nothing. Barely a touch. But the man flinches. Just once. His eyes darken, not with anger, but with something else. Something that doesn't belong here. A flicker of memory, sharp and unwanted, passing behind his stare like a shadow of gunfire across sand. He stands abruptly. Clean it, he says, gesturing at the sofa. His voice is steady again, locked back into place. The cleaner nods so fast she nearly stumbles, scrambling for cloths with trembling hands. No one moves to help her. No one breathes. The baby watches him turn away. Her eyes follow his back as he walks across the room, each step controlled, each movement precise. For a moment, just a moment, his hand curls into a fist at his side. Then it relaxes. If you're still here, listening, ask yourself this. Why would a man who commands fear across an entire city react like that to a baby? Because this isn't about a sofa. And it isn't about a mess. As the cleaner kneels, scrubbing desperately at the stain, she doesn't see the man pause at the doorway. She doesn't see his shoulders tense. She doesn't hear the thought that hits him harder than any bullet ever did. I know that child. And the reason why is something he has spent years trying to forget. Stay with me, because when he finally asks her the one question he's been avoiding, everything in this house is going to change. The man doesn't look back. That's how Hannah knows it isn't over. The door to the inner corridor closes with a sound too soft to be comforting. Not a slam. Not a threat. Just a quiet, final click that echoes through the marble hall like a held breath. Only then do people move again. Guards straighten. One exhales slowly through his nose. Another adjusts the position of his weapon, eyes fixed on the floor as if the stain on the sofa might look back at him. Hannah kneels, scrubbing. The cloth drags against the fabric, rough and useless. The sauce has already sunk deep, darkening the white like a secret that won't come out no matter how hard you press. Her hands shake so badly she can barely hold the sponge. "I'm sorry," she whispers again, though no one has asked her to speak. The baby makes a soft sound behind her. Not a cry. Not laughter. Just a small, curious hum, like she's tasting the air. Hannah risks a glance over her shoulder. Minseo is still sitting there, legs spread, palms sticky, staring at the doorway where the man disappeared. Her eyes are bright. Focused. Calm in a way that makes Hannah's stomach twist. This house eats calm. Luxury presses in from every direction. Gold trim along the walls. Chandeliers heavy enough to crush a man if they fell. The faint smell of polish, leather, and something chemical beneath it, cleanliness layered over violence. Even the silence here feels expensive. And dangerous. Hannah has cleaned wealthy homes before. Politicians. CEOs. People who smiled too much and tipped too little. None of them felt like this. This place doesn't tolerate mistakes. Everyone knows who owns it. Ji-hoon Park doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to threaten. His authority lives in the way grown men stop breathing when he enters a room. In the way decisions are made before he finishes a sentence. In the way silence bends around him, obedient. Hannah keeps scrubbing. Her arms ache. Her breath comes too fast. She is painfully aware of every sound, the whisper of cloth on fabric, the distant hum of air conditioning, the soft clink of crystals settling overhead. Then footsteps. Measured. Unhurried. A guard approaches, stopping a careful distance away. "You'll finish here," he says quietly. Not unkind. Not kind either. "Then you'll wait." "Wait?" Hannah echoes. The guard's eyes flick to the baby, then away. "Yes." Her heart drops. Waiting is worse than being fired. Worse than being yelled at. Waiting means judgment is still coming. The guard steps back into his place along the wall, becoming part of the decor again. Motionless. Watching everything. Minseo shifts. She reaches out and presses her palm against the stained cushion, leaving a smaller print inside the larger mess. Hannah's throat tightens. "I told you not to touch," she whispers automatically, though there's no heat in it. No energy left. Minseo doesn't look at her. She looks toward the corridor again. As if she knows. Minutes stretch. The cloth is soaked through. The stain remains. Hannah finally stops, her shoulders sagging. She sits back on her heels, breath shallow, waiting for the inevitable. For shouting. For footsteps. For the end of whatever fragile hope she brought into this house. Instead, the baby does something strange. Minseo turns fully now, twisting her small body to face the hall. She straightens her back. Her hands go still. Her breathing slows, deep and steady, like she's settling herself. Like she's preparing. Hannah frowns. "What is it, baby?" No answer. From somewhere deep inside the house, a door opens. Footsteps return. Minseo doesn't cry. She doesn't reach for her mother. She smiles. And in a house built on fear, where grown men tremble at the sound of a single voice, the smallest person in the room reacts as if she's been waiting all along. The footsteps stop just outside the room. Everyone feels it. The guards straighten in unison, shoulders squared, eyes forward. The air seems to tighten, like the house itself is bracing. Even the chandeliers overhead give a faint, almost imperceptible creak as if reacting to his presence. Ji-hoon Park does not enter right away. He stands beyond the threshold, unseen, listening. Hannah holds her breath. Her chest burns, but she doesn't dare exhale too loudly. She is suddenly aware of how exposed she feels kneeling on the floor, hands stained, spine bent in submission. She wipes her palms against her uniform, smearing sauce and sweat together. Behind her, Min-seo lets out a soft sound. Not fear. Recognition. Ji-hoon steps into the room. The effect is immediate. The guard's breathing changes. Someone swallows. Someone else blinks too fast. His presence presses down without a word, filling the space more completely than the gold and marble ever could. He stops a few feet from the sofa. The stain is still there. So is the baby. Min-seo looks up at him, eyes wide and dark, studying his face with a seriousness that doesn't belong to someone so small. Her hands rest on her lap now, still messy, but she doesn't move. Ji-hoon doesn't speak. Seconds pass. 10. Maybe more. Hannah feels them like weights stacking on her back. This is the silence that breaks people. Ji-hoon lowers himself slowly, controlled, until he is crouched at the baby's level again. The room holds its breath with him. He doesn't reach out this time. He doesn't even look at Hannah. He looks only at Min-seo. Up close, he notices things he didn't before. The faint crease between her brows when she concentrates. The way her fingers curl inward, as if she's holding something invisible. The steadiness of her gaze. Children usually sense danger. They cry. They recoil. They scream. Min-seo does none of that. She leans forward slightly instead. Ji-hoon's jaw tightens. Something inside him shifts, subtle, unwelcome. A pressure behind his ribs, like a memory trying to force its way to the surface. He pushes it down the way he always does. From the far end of the hall, a phone vibrates. Once. Then stops. Ji-hoon doesn't turn, but he knows. He always knows. Messages have been coming in since dawn. Quiet warnings. Small delays. Names he hasn't heard in years resurfacing in places they shouldn't. Old enemies don't stay buried forever. Min-seo reaches out again. Her fingers stop just short of touching him this time, hovering in the space between them. She studies his face, then tilts her head, as if puzzled by something she can't quite place. Ji-hoon feels his breath slow. Against his will. The silence stretches, not threatening now, but dense. Heavy with something unnamed. The kind of silence that follows gunfire. Or precedes it. A guard shifts his weight. Ji-hoon lifts a hand without looking. The movement stops instantly. He remains there, crouched, eyes locked with the baby's, long enough that Hannah's legs begin to ache from kneeling. Long enough that the house seems to forget how to function without his command. Finally, Ji-hoon stands. He smooths his suit jacket, the gesture precise, practiced. The moment closes like a door snapping shut. He turns his head slightly. You, he says, voice calm, clipped. Hannah flinches. Why yes, sir. Clean yourself up, he continues. Then come to my office. Her heart drops hard into her stomach. Yes, sir. Ji-hoon pauses, eyes flicking once more to the baby on the sofa, the stain, the mess, the quiet disruption sitting at the center of his carefully controlled world. Then he walks away. Behind him, Min-seo watches. And somewhere beyond the walls of the mansion, the countdown he's been ignoring ticks forward, quietly, patiently, now racing towards something that can no longer be delayed. Hannah washes her hands 3 times before leaving the service corridor. The water runs hot, then hotter, scalding her skin until her fingers turn red and numb. She scrubs until the smell of sauce is gone, until the tremor in her hands fades enough to be hidden. She smooths her uniform, tucks a loose curl behind her ear, and checks on Min-seo one last time. The baby sits on a clean mat now, guarded by 2 men who look deeply uncomfortable being assigned to watch someone so small. Min-seo babbles at them, unimpressed by guns or authority. Hannah forces herself to step away. Ji-hoon Park's office sits at the far end of the upper floor, past doors Hannah has never been allowed to clean. The air changes as she approaches. Quieter. Thicker. The smell shifts too, less polish, more leather and something faintly metallic, like old coins or spent shells. A guard opens the door without knocking. Ji-hoon stands by the window, back to her, the city stretched below him in sharp lines and cold light. Seoul looks distant from up here. Controlled. Like a map pinned to a wall. You served, he says without turning. Yes, sir. Not as a cleaner. No, sir. What branch? Hannah hesitates. Logistics. Support. Which unit? She swallows. U.S. Army. He nods once, as if confirming something already known. Why did you leave? He asks. The question lands harder than she expects. Hannah's shoulders tense. My husband was deployed, she says quietly. Ji-hoon turns. His eyes are sharp, assessing, but there's something else there now, an intensity that makes her skin prickle. What was his name? The room feels suddenly too small. Sergeant Daniel Kim, she says. The sound of the name hangs in the air. Ji-hoon doesn't move. For a moment, Hannah thinks he didn't hear her. Then his jaw tightens. Just slightly. His gaze shifts, not away, but inward, like he's staring through her and into something far beyond the glass walls. Spell it, he says. She does. His breath leaves him slowly. What year? He asks. 3 years ago. Where? Kunar Province, Hannah replies. Her voice wavers despite her effort. Afghanistan. Ji-hoon closes his eyes. And the office disappears. He is back in the mountains, the air thin and burning his lungs. The smell of dust and cordite fills his nose. Gunfire cracks through the ravine, sharp and relentless. His radio screams static. His leg is on fire, blood soaking through his uniform, sticky and hot. He remembers falling. He remembers thinking, this is it. Then hands. Strong. Desperate. Someone shouting in English, words blurring together. Pain exploding as he's dragged over rocks, every movement tearing something inside him. Stay with me, the voice says. You don't die here. Ji-hoon opens his eyes. Hannah is staring at him now, fear and confusion etched across her face. He carried me, Ji-hoon says quietly. After the ambush. Hannah's breath catches. What? He was wounded, Ji-hoon continues, voice steady but low. So was I. He could have left. The office is silent except for Hannah's shallow breathing. He didn't. Her knees nearly give out. She grips the back of the chair to steady herself. They told me he stayed behind to cover the retreat. Ji-hoon nods. He did. A tear slips free despite her effort to stop it. He saved my life, Ji-hoon says. The words settle like a blow. Hannah's chest tightens painfully. Then why didn't he come home? Ji-hoon looks at her fully now. Because he turned back, he says. When he heard more gunfire. The truth lands hard and merciless. Hannah covers her mouth, a sound breaking from her throat. Grief she thought she had buried surges back, raw and sharp. Her legs finally give, and she sinks into the chair, shoulders shaking. Ji-hoon steps forward. Then, slowly, deliberately, he bows. Deep. Formal. A gesture of respect reserved for the dead. I live, he says, his voice quiet but unyielding, because your husband chose not to. The room is heavy with the weight of it. Hannah looks up at him through tears, devastation written across her face. And Ji-hoon Park, a man feared across an entire city, feels the full cost of the life he was given, paid for by a hero the world forgot. The bow lingers longer than Hannah expects. Ji-hoon Park remains bent at the waist, head lowered, shoulders squared as if facing a firing line instead of a grieving woman. The city hum outside the glass fades into something distant and unreal. All Hannah can hear is her own breath, ragged, uneven, and the echo of a truth she never asked for but will carry forever. When Ji-hoon straightens, the man who rises is not quite the one who stood before. His face is composed. Controlled. But his eyes look older now. Heavier. I have owed your husband a debt I could never repay, he says quietly. Hannah swallows. Her mouth tastes like metal. You don't owe me anything. That, Ji-hoon replies, is where you are wrong. He moves toward the desk but doesn't sit. Instead, he stops beside it, fingers brushing the polished edge like he's reminding himself the present still exists. I did not survive that valley because I was lucky, he continues. Or skilled. Or chosen. Hannah looks up. I survived, he says, because when your husband dragged me into cover, he made me promise something. The words hang heavy. What? Hannah whispers. That if I lived, Jihoon says, I would not waste the life he gave me. Her chest tightens. I did not understand what that meant at the time, he admits. So I interpreted it the only way I knew how. He gestures vaguely around them, the glass, the steel, the silent men outside the door. I built power. I built fear. I told myself control was purpose. Jihoon turns to face her fully now. But control is easy, he says. And fear is hollow. A silence stretches between them, thick with things unsaid. I survived, Jihoon continues, voice lowering, because your husband believed one life could shield another. That belief followed me home. I buried it. But it did not die. Hannah's eyes burn. That belief woke up today, he says softly. He steps closer, not into her space, but near enough that his presence feels intentional, grounded. You and your daughter are under my protection, Jihoon says. Not a command. An oath. Hannah stiffens. Protection from someone like you, she says carefully, comes with enemies. Yes. Violence. Yes. And danger that will follow us wherever we go. Jihoon nods once. Yes. The honesty leaves no room for comfort. This house is watched, he continues. Every decision I make is measured. Every pause is noticed. The moment I change, his jaw tightens. The moment I hesitate, they will see it. Hannah thinks of Min-seo. Of the way the baby had looked at him without fear. And if they see you protecting us, she asks. They will come, Jihoon answers without hesitation. Because weakness invites challenge. And mercy? Hannah asks quietly. His gaze sharpens. Mercy invites war. The weight of that truth settles heavily in her chest. Then why do it, she asks. Jihoon's eyes flick, just once, toward the door. Toward the rest of the house. Toward a child who has already disrupted everything. Because this time, he says, I understand the promise I made. Hannah exhales shakily. If we stay, she says, we become your responsibility. Jihoon inclines his head. You become my line. A vibration cuts through the room. A phone, muffled but persistent. Jihoon doesn't check it. He already knows what it means. Someone has noticed. His voice lowers. From this moment on, my enemies will stop wondering why I hesitate. Hannah's pulse quickens. They will start asking who I am protecting. Jihoon turns toward the door, the old mask sliding back into place with frightening ease. And when they find out, he says, they will come for you first. The oath is sealed. And somewhere in the city below, the first whispers begin to spread that Jihoon Park has something left to lose. The house exhales into a rhythm that almost feels normal. Almost. Morning light spills across the marble floors in long, pale bands. Somewhere deep in the mansion, water runs. Footsteps pass without urgency. Doors open and close softly, as if the walls themselves have learned to move carefully. Hannah sits on the floor near the tall windows, Min-seo in her lap. The baby gnaws on the corner of a folded cloth, drool soaking through it, utterly unconcerned with where she is or who owns the space. Her small fingers clutch Hannah's sleeve, then release, then clutch again, an idle rhythm that keeps Hannah anchored in the present. Across the room, Jihoon Park stands by the window. He isn't speaking. He isn't on the phone. He simply watches the city below, hands clasped behind his back, posture straight but not rigid. The suit jacket is gone. His sleeves are rolled just past his wrists, exposing the faint edge of an old scar. Silence stretches. Not the threatening kind. The other kind. The rare one. The kind that exists only when nothing is demanding to be destroyed. Min-seo squirms. Hannah adjusts her gently, murmuring nonsense under her breath. The baby responds with a soft sound, half laugh, half breath, then wriggles free and crawls toward the open space in the room. Hannah tenses instinctively. Jihoon turns at the sound. Min-seo crawls straight toward him. She stops at his feet, sits back on her heels, and looks up. Ji-hoon freezes. For a long moment, no one moves. Then, slowly, he lowers himself to the floor. The motion is careful, deliberate, as if he's negotiating with gravity itself. He sits cross-legged on the marble, an image that feels almost wrong in a room built for standing men and power plays. Min-seo studies him. Reaches out. Pats his knee. Ji-hoon exhales. A sound escapes him, quiet, involuntary. Not quite a laugh. Something softer. Hannah watches, her chest tight. He doesn't touch the baby at first. He lets her climb over his legs, tug at his sleeve, investigate the buttons on his cuff. When she loses interest, he remains still, as if afraid movement might break whatever fragile permission has been granted. If you're still listening, notice this. No one tells him to do this. No one asks him to soften. He chooses to stay. Later, a guard passes by the doorway and pauses, eyes flicking to the scene on the floor. He looks away just as quickly, expression unreadable. The silence returns. Time passes differently here now. Meals arrive without discussion. Phones vibrate and are silenced. Decisions are delayed, not abandoned, just deferred. Ji-hoon watches Min-seo nap in Hannah's arms that afternoon, her breath warm and even. He says nothing. But when Hannah shifts, adjusting the baby's weight, he steps closer without thinking, one hand hovering as if ready to help. He catches himself. Steps back. The moment closes. That evening, Hannah stands at the window, rocking Min-seo gently. Outside, the city glows. Inside, the house remains unnervingly calm. Too calm. A phone buzzes on the table behind her. Once. Twice. Ji-hoon doesn't pick it up. The third vibration comes softer, shorter. A message instead of a call. He glances at the screen. The silence changes. Hannah feels it before she sees it, the subtle tightening in the air, the way his shoulders square, the way the room seems to remember what it was built for. He locks the phone without responding. From somewhere beyond the gates, an engine revs and dies. Min-seo stirs in her sleep, frowning. Ji-hoon looks toward the sound, jaw set. The peace holds. For now. But it creaks, thin and fragile, like a surface stretched too tight, waiting for the first crack. The call comes just before dawn. Ji-hoon is already awake. He stands alone in the security room, the glow of surveillance monitors washing his face in pale blue light. Every camera feed is sharp. Every corner accounted for. The mansion sleeps, but the perimeter hums quietly, sensors armed, guards rotating, systems breathing. The phone vibrates once against the metal table. He answers without greeting. Say it. A voice crackles through, tight and controlled. Busan confirmed it. Kim Tae-sung resurfaced last night. Ji-hoon's eyes narrow. How? Through an intermediary. Old channels. Military surplus routes. The name settles in his chest like a blade. Kim Tae-sung. A ghost he buried years ago. A man who learned brutality in the same place as Ji-hoon did, mountain passes, dust-choked villages, operations that never officially happened. They had fought on the same side once. Long enough to recognize each other's tells. Long enough to know what betrayal looked like. He knows, Ji-hoon says quietly. There's a pause on the line. About the woman? And the child. Another pause. Longer this time. Yes. Ji-hoon ends the call. He doesn't move for several seconds. The monitors reflect back 1,000 versions of the same truth, control is slipping. Behind him, a door opens softly. Hannah stands in the doorway, Min-seo asleep against her shoulder. Her hair is loose now, her face pale in the early light. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but she had heard the name. Who is Kim Tae-sung? She asks. Ji-hoon turns slowly. The room smells faintly of electronics and cold coffee. Outside, the sky begins to lighten, gray bleeding into blue. He was part of my unit, Ji-hoon says. After. After what? After the war, he replies. After things stopped having names. Hannah steps closer, careful not to wake Min-seo. He learned quickly, Jihoon continues. That violence without purpose is wasteful. That fear is more efficient when it's personal. Hannah's grip tightens. You said enemies would notice. They already have. He moves to the window and gestures toward the city below. Kim doesn't attack immediately. He waits. He watches patterns. He pressures from the edges. How much time do we have? Hannah asks. Jihoon checks his watch. 72 hours, he says. Before he tests me. Hannah's breath catches. Tests you how? Jihoon doesn't answer right away. Minseo stirs, her small face scrunching as she shifts in her sleep. Jihoon watches her for a moment, really watches her, reminder of everything at stake. Kim believes mercy is a weakness that must be punished, Jihoon says finally. He believes men like me don't change. And you? I believe he will try to prove himself right. The words hang heavy. A guard appears at the door, tension etched across his face. Sir. We picked up movement near the east fence. Not inside the perimeter. Yet. Jihoon nods once. Increase rotation. Double eyes on the north approach. Yes, sir. The guard disappears. Hannah feels her pulse quicken. You said you could make us disappear. I can, Jihoon replies. But Kim would follow the trail. He always does. Then what do we do? Jihoon looks at her. We wait, he says. And we prepare. Outside, the sun clears the horizon. Light spills over the city, indifferent and bright. Inside, the mansion tightens. A camera flickers on one screen, just for a second. Static, then clarity. Jihoon's jaw sets. Kim has made his first move, he says quietly. Hannah holds Minseo closer. Somewhere beyond the gates, engines idle. Men wait. Watches sink. Weapons are checked and rechecked. And as the countdown begins in earnest, Jihoon Park understands with absolute clarity. The attack isn't coming for him. It's coming for what he chose to protect. The first explosion shatters the night at 2:17. Glass screams. The east wing windows burst outward in a rain of glittering shards, alarms detonating a split second later, red lights strobing, sirens ripping through the mansion's bones. The floor jumps beneath Hannah's feet as she wakes with Minseo already crying, the sound thin and terrified against the roar. Move, a voice barks outside the door. Hannah scoops her daughter up, heart slamming, and the hallway floods with motion. Guards sprint past, boots pounding marble, rifles snapping into position. Smoke crawls along the ceiling, sharp and chemical, burning Hannah's throat with every breath. Downstairs, Jihoon is already running. He takes the steps two at a time, jacket abandoned, sleeves rolled, a pistol in his hand that seems to have appeared from nowhere. Another blast hits, closer this time, throwing him forward. He rolls, comes up firing, the crack of gunshots punching holes through the chaos. North Gate compromised, someone shouts into a radio. Jihoon doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. He knows Kim's pattern now, pressure from one side, teeth on the other. The attack is loud by design. Dazzle. Disorient. Draw him out. In the west corridor, Hannah stumbles as the lights flicker, plunging everything into red again. Minseo screams, fists clenched in Hannah's shirt. A guard grabs Hannah's elbow, steering her toward a reinforced door. Safe room, he yells. Now. They run. The air reeks of gunpowder and burning insulation. Somewhere metal shrieks as it twists. Hannah hears shouting in Korean, clipped and furious, then the wet thud of bodies hitting stone. Outside the mansion, engines roar. Kim Tae-sun watches from the tree line, night vision glass to his eyes. He smiles as the fire blooms against the white facade. Bring him to me, he says calmly. Alive if possible. Inside, Jihoon reaches the central hall just as the ceiling above detonates. The world goes white. He feels heat slam into his back, a fist of fire that lifts him off his feet and hurls him across the floor. He skids, breath punched from his lungs, ears ringing with a high, awful whine. Dust and smoke swallow everything. Sir, a guard shouts. Ji-hoon pushes up on one elbow, vision swimming. Blood runs warm down his side. He forces himself to stand. Hannah, he growls into the radio. Where are you? Static. Another explosion tears through the lower level. Ji-hoon fires into the smoke, muzzle flash stuttering like lightning. He moves forward, step by brutal step, dragging himself through the wreckage toward the west wing. In the safe room, the door slams shut with a metallic boom. Hannah collapses against it, sliding to the floor, Min-seo clutched tight. The room hums as locks engage, steel on steel, sealing them in. The air is cooler here, filtered, but the muffled thunder outside still shakes the walls. Min-seo's cries taper into hiccuping sobs. It's okay, Hannah whispers, rocking. It's okay, baby. She doesn't believe it. Back in the hall, Ji-hoon reaches the junction just as men spill through a blown doorway, faces masked, movements efficient. Kim's people. Trained. Familiar. Ji-hoon opens fire. The hallway becomes a tunnel of sound and light, shots cracking, bodies falling, smoke thick enough to chew. He advances, pain screaming in his ribs, every breath tasting like rust. Ji-hoon, a voice calls out through the din calm. Amused. Kim steps into view, unmasked, eyes bright. You've gone soft, Kim says, raising his weapon. I told you this would happen. Ji-hoon doesn't answer. He fires. The exchange is brutal and fast, cover splintering, bullets tearing through stone. Ji-hoon lunges as a blast knocks him sideways, slams into Kim, the two of them crashing into a column. They grapple, breath hot, sweat and blood slick between them. You chose a child over your name, Kim snarls. I chose a life, Ji-hoon grunts, driving his elbow up. The world erupts again. A final explosion, deeper, heavier, rips through the floor beneath them. The column gives way. The ground vanishes. Hannah feels it in the safe room, the violent drop, the sickening lurch. Outside, fire surges. Smoke billows. When the noise finally fades, there is a terrible, hollow quiet. Guards emerge, coughing, scanning the wreckage. Someone shouts Ji-hoon's name. No answer. They find blood. Broken stone. A collapsed section of floor. But no body. In the safe room, Hannah presses her forehead to the cool steel door, Min-seo trembling against her chest. And somewhere in the ruins of the mansion, Ji-hoon Park disappears into smoke and fire, leaving behind only silence, and the question of whether the man who swore to protect them is still alive. The silence afterward is worse than the noise. It presses in from all sides, heavy and suffocating, broken only by the distant crackle of fire and the low groan of damaged stone settling into place. In the safe room, Hannah sits on the floor with her back against the steel door, Min-seo clutched to her chest so tightly she's afraid she might hurt her. Shoo, she whispers, though the word trembles. It's okay. Mama's here. Min-seo doesn't scream now. She doesn't cry the way Hannah expects her to. Instead, she goes very still. Her small body relaxes, her cheek resting against Hannah's shoulder, eyes wide and alert, listening. Watching. As if she understands that something has ended, and something else hasn't yet begun. Minutes pass. Maybe longer. A voice finally crackles through the intercom, distorted and shaken. The perimeter is secure. Repeat, perimeter secure. Hannah doesn't answer. Sir, the voice continues, hesitation creeping in. Sir, if you can hear. Silence again. Hannah slides down until her head rests against the door. Her breath comes in shallow pulls, each one scraping her lungs raw. She presses her lips to Min-seo's hair, breathing in the familiar scent of soap and warmth. He promised, she whispers. He promised. The door unlocks with a deep, mechanical thunk. Hannah flinches. The door opens slowly. Ji-hoon stands there. Barefoot. Bloody. Smoke-streaked. One sleeve torn clean through, blood dark and drying along his forearm. His face is cut, his breathing uneven, but his eyes are clear. Alive. Hannah sobs, the sound breaking free before she can stop it. Ji-hoon sways slightly, then drops to one knee in front of her. He doesn't reach for her. He reaches for Min-seo. The baby leans forward immediately. Her small hand presses flat against his chest, right over his heart. She pats once. Then again. Ji-hoon's breath catches. He closes his eyes. I was afraid, he says quietly. Hannah looks at him, confused. Of dying? He shakes his head. Of living, he admits. The words come out raw, stripped of armor. I told myself power was necessary. That fear was the only language men like Kim understand. His voice falters. But the truth is, I was hiding. Hannah's chest tightens. I hid behind violence so I wouldn't have to feel the weight of surviving when better men didn't, Ji-hoon continues. I told myself I was strong. I was wrong. Min-seo makes a soft sound, almost a question. Ji-hoon opens his eyes and looks at her, really looks. At the calm. The trust. The way she never once looked at him like a monster. You never feared me, he whispers. Because you saw what I was running from. Hannah's breath shudders. I don't want to be feared anymore, Ji-hoon says. Not by you. Not by her. He straightens slowly, pain etched across his face, resolve hardening beneath it. There is only one way this ends, he continues. If I keep my power, they will never stop coming. Not for me. For you. Hannah's pulse spikes. What are you saying? Ji-hoon stands. He turns toward the hall, where guards wait in tense silence, eyes wide at the sight of him alive. Call them all, he orders. Every lieutenant. Every ally. Every enemy who's listening. The guards hesitate. Now, Ji-hoon snaps. They move. Hannah rises shakily to her feet, Min-seo still in her arms. Ji-hoon, if you do this. I know, he says softly. I lose everything. He looks at Min-seo one last time. But I keep what matters. Moments later, Ji-hoon stands in the ruined hall, blood on the marble, cameras pointed at him from every angle. This ends tonight, he announces into the phones, the feeds, the listening ears of the underworld. I am done ruling through fear. A collective gasp ripples through the room. I will dismantle my own empire, he continues. Piece by piece. Power drains from the air like oxygen pulled from a room. Hannah watches, stunned. Ji-hoon Park has just signed his own death warrant. And he has never looked more certain. The house feels different in the days that follow. Not quieter, emptier. Men still move through the halls, still check corners and speak in low voices, but something essential has been stripped away. The fear that once held everything in place has loosened its grip, and in its absence, uncertainty creeps in. Power, Hannah realizes, was never just about control. It was about belief. And belief, once broken, doesn't repair itself. Ji-hoon stands alone in the living room. The white sofa is still there. No one has replaced it. No one has dared. The stain remains, dark, uneven, impossible to ignore. It sits at the center of the room like a scar, proof that something irreversible happened here. Ji-hoon studies it quietly, hands clasped behind his back, as if measuring how much of his life bled into that fabric. Behind him, Hannah adjusts Min-seo's jacket. A small one. Blue. Too thin for the weight of what's coming. The baby babbles softly, unaware, her fingers tugging at Hannah's collar. She smells like soap and warm milk. Like safety. Hannah presses her lips briefly to Min-seo's hair, studying herself. They're moving already, Hannah says. Ji-hoon nods. I expected that. Calls have gone unanswered. Meetings cancelled. Allies who once arrived within minutes now hesitate, or don't respond at all. Kim Tae-sung is still alive somewhere, but quieter now. Watching. Waiting to see how long Ji-hoon survives without the armor of fear. You can still come with us, Hannah says. Ji-hoon turns. The look in his eyes tells her she already knows the answer. If I leave, he says, they'll follow. They'll tear the world apart to find me. And if they don't find me, his jaw tightens. They'll find you. Hannah's throat burns. So this is it. This is responsibility, Ji-hoon replies. He kneels in front of Min-seo, lowering himself until they're eye level. The baby studies his face seriously, as she always has, then reaches out and pats his cheek. Once. Twice. Jihoon smiles, a small, fragile thing. You did more than you'll ever know, he murmurs. Min-seo giggles. Hannah turns away before the sound breaks her. The guards wait at the door. Not rushing. Giving space. Respect where fear once ruled. Hannah steps forward, then stops. Why didn't you leave back then? She asks quietly. After the war. After he saved you. Jihoon exhales. Because I thought surviving meant I had to become harder than death, he says. I was wrong. She nods. He would have hated that. I know. A long silence stretches between them. No promises left to make. Hannah moves toward the door. The guards open it. Cold air rushes in, carrying the distant sounds of the city, horns, engines, life continuing. Just before she crosses the threshold, Jihoon speaks again. If anyone ever asks, he says, tell her I kept my promise. Hannah doesn't trust her voice. She nods once and steps outside. The door closes. The sound is final. Jihoon remains where he is, the stained sofa behind him, the echo of a baby's laughter still hanging in the air. Around him, the house waits, vulnerable now, exposed, no longer protected by myth. A phone vibrates in his pocket. One message. Unknown number. He reads it without changing expression. Then he looks up, eyes hardening as something shifts back into place, not fear, not power, but resolve sharpened by consequence. The message reads. You should have let the baby cry.